Good afternoon, everyone. We're doing another deal analysis, and today we are doing a deal analysis for a fix and flip with Derek Marlin of ELEVATION. So the last couple ones we did with Derek were is this a deal or no deal that he was looking at with some clients, and they were analyzing, comparing what the clients analyzed, what Derek did, and why they passed on those previous deals. But today, Derek, this is actually a flip that you have completed. And
Yes.
This is one of the best ones you've ever done.
Right.
And so this is a real deal that you just recently completed. So glad to have you back in the studio.
Yeah, Chris, thank you for having me.
Yeah, so this is, I think you mentioned this either to me in a previous podcast at some point. This is a half duplex in
Correct.
West Highlands.
Yes.
So just probably I know it's one of the hottest areas, probably one of the hottest areas for flipping, I would imagine, too.
It is.
So just jump into it because I'm here to learn, so is the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a specific deal that we did purchase. So we'll go over a couple of pieces of background information, and then we'll get into the actual deal analysis. The first one is we always like to tell clients, because we get this asked a lot, how do you find your deals and how many deals are on versus off market? On average, roughly this year, we're tracking at almost dead even. 50% are on market, 50% are off market. This particular deal was an off market opportunity, and it was a referral from my project manager's family member. And so kind of the takeaway behind that is there are great opportunities almost right under your nose, and make sure that friends and family know exactly what you're doing, and it's not just professional sourcing that you're going through. So kind of a friend type thing, and great opportunity for us.
So was your project manager doing the right things and just letting people know, hey, I'm in the flipping world, so if you have anything, call me first?
Yeah, absolutely. So my project manager that we've got right now, he had been a real estate agent and has a great construction background, and so brought him on to run project management. And so he let all of his former clients know, friends and family, and of course this was actually from his folks. And so this was a direct referral that obviously they knew exactly what was going on, but he made it a great point, and so did our other staff, to tell people when we're changing jobs or changing fields, this is exactly what we've got going on, and anything could be an option, or we'll just help somebody in a one-off way too.
And do you give your team members, whether it's your team members or clients, like basically like a script or elevator pitch to what to say to people?
We do. We've got an elevator pitch. We've almost got a script that we call a bird dog script.
Okay.
So that's kind of an old school term that people use for people that are out looking at properties. So quick side note, I had a guy who came to my door selling pest control, and he was one of the best salespeople I've encountered in a long time. And so I said, hey, by the way, if you're interested, I do real estate, and we pay a substantial referral fee that's probably a lot more than you're making doing pest control. Are you interested? And he said yes, and so we sent him a script, and also for him, since he's in the field, what to look for. And you never know when you get a deal. So now we've got a guy who's a super hustler out there looking for us, and we have kind of this script and protocol of how he can source deals for us and send deals our way, and then we'll gladly pay a referral fee.
And this is just something for, in this case, him to do while he's out there talking to people. If you notice, hey, there's all nice houses, and now there's this dilapidated one.
Right.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Smart.
So whether it's that, or whether it's people more in our inner referral network, people that we do business with, if it's somebody who's a hard money lender, we try to get them kind of a script of how they can engage on our behalf, and then we try to refer folks their way for lending. So anytime you can get a referral, it's almost like, good point, script, and how we can keep that streamlined.
And I always like to really ask these questions. I always want to take the time and just highlight it out there because, years ago, I was a brand new salesperson. In my previous business, I built a pretty big sales team, and I noticed one of the biggest things people, I know what I'm doing, but when people would ask you directly, hey, what do you do?
Yeah.
They'd often get like a deer in the headlights look and
Right.
give out a stumbled response. And I've done this myself in the past as well.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, well, I got to learn to actually write out a script, customize it, and then role play with my salespeople to make sure they do it. And I tell all my clients, all investors out there I meet, if you want to do, especially if you're looking for flip deals and off-market stuff, man, make sure you have a very succinct, 1 to 3 sentence, just boom, here's exactly what I do. That's you practice, that's memorable, and that you can just, like if people ask, hey, where'd you go to school? I went here. That way just comes off very smoothly and naturally.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
great point.
I'm not surprised that you and your team and clients have it dialed in. I always like to highlight that because that's what probably helped get you this deal.
Yeah, it definitely helped.
And I know
us
your
the deal.
project manager, that's Daniel, right?
Yep, Daniel.
Yeah, he's a pro, so he's definitely knows what to say as well.
Yeah, absolutely. He's great. So that helps too when you've got good people working that system.
All right, so you got the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Was this just for you guys, or other people also making some offers? Like, how competitive was it?
Yeah, it was definitely competitive. We knew there were a handful of people that were making an offer, and actually this is another good example. We were the backup. We went in and we ended up bidding on this in January, and we were actually $5,000 lower than the other offer. But what we were really upfront about is we said it's kind of a term that we use, but we say we want to put our best foot forward. And so I'm going to make the best possible offer right out of the gate. I'm not going to try to lowball somebody and hope to get something, especially a property in this area. We knew just come out as strong as we can. And then we were really flexible. And when we found out and the person said, I'm not going to leave $5,000 on the table, I said, I understand. Just know that many deals fall through. And of our off-market deals, probably half of those ones are second and third go-rounds because something falls apart or someone doesn't stay true to their word. And in this case, the person did another inspection, came back to him and asked for another price reduction when they said they wouldn't. The seller, was in a good position, and she was moving into her dream home and very successful professional. So this wasn't a money thing per se. And out of principle, she said, no, I'm going to go with Elevation. And we were super fortunate. So yeah, came back around almost 5 weeks later, and we got the deal and closed on it in March.
It took them 5 weeks, the first person to either...
No. It took them 5 weeks for them to call us back.
Okay.
We thought it was a gone, situation. We had touched base. The seller kind of went quiet. So in our world, normally that means we're just checking county records to see if it actually does sell and put them in our follow-up pipeline. And then we got a call 5 weeks later, and we immediately said, okay, here's the deal. Many times if somebody comes back to me, I will go in a little bit less after that. But in this instance, we said, nope. This is the agreement we made with you. We knew it was a good location. We said offer is exactly the same, and you tell me when you want to close.
And so do you know who the first buyer was? Was it a big iBuyer, or was it just another individual flipper?
I believe
it was
I think it was an individual flipper. It was not a wholesaler. This was not a scenario, to my understanding, where there was 10 or 12 other people. Okay. I think there were just probably 2 or 3 people because, again, this person had done their research online and narrowed it down pretty well. So I don't think we were up against another wholesaler or another iBuyer. It was another investor, probably similar to what we do.
Okay. And then talking about the property, I know it's a half duplex in the Highlands, and that's obviously, as you know, very transition area. What part of the Highlands and what condition was the property in? Yeah,
so for your viewing and listening audience, we're going to put this deck on there, and we've got before and after pictures, so we can highlight what the condition is. It was in considered West Highlands, and it was really close to 38th and Lowell are the two major cross streets. So a ton of development going on, great part of town. And as you mentioned, it was one half of a side-by-side duplex. So there's a big difference in price point with what you should buy it for, and especially on the back end of up-down duplexes where you have a unit on top and then a basement unit that you go in. This was a beautiful classic side-by-side unit where it looks like one large house. You've got a partition wall in the middle dividing it, and you have 2 really nice separate front entrances. Each person has their own nicely fenced off yard, and then there is a combined 2-car garage structure. Each owner had one half. So it was a super great classic layout for a property.
And what was the, not the half you bought, but the other half, what type of shape was that? And was that already a remodeled Highlands property?
Yeah, that one was really interesting. We got overly excited because anytime we are getting into a project, we quickly meet every one of our neighbors. We pass out flyers telling people what we're doing. And then in this instance, it's shared water. So we needed to actually meet the neighbor because we knew we were going to split the water bill because of the party wall agreement, which is an agreement that says it's one water line coming into these homes that were built almost 100 years ago. You're splitting the water line. You don't have 2 separate water readings. And we found out that they were about to list the property. So of course we were jumping at the opportunity to try to buy the second half. Gives us a ton of different options. But we found out they'd already selected a real estate agent to list it, and they literally were listing it. I think we finally got a hold of them on, let's say, a Wednesday, and they were listing it the next day.
Oh.
So they put it on the market. They had their unit as 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom upstairs, which is the current condition of the one we bought. They had an unfinished basement. The one we bought had an unfinished basement, and that was super helpful. Again, we had already gone under contract, and so we were set to close, I believe, about a week later when they listed. But it really helped us, and we'll talk about it more here in a second, of how we decided what to do in the rehab. But the condition of their home was somebody probably flipped it about 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay.
So nice condition upstairs, pretty open layout for this type of property. Cabinets were a handful of years old. You can almost tell by backsplash and tile layout when it was flipped. And so stuff that you saw 3 or 4 years ago, that's what they had put in, and then an unfinished basement. So we actually had an amazing comp right next door, and then a couple in the area to know what we were going to sell it for in the back end.
Great. Well, I'm curious what that sold for, but I'll save that for the analysis.
Yeah.
So what did the takedown and timeline look at, just for like price and terms on your buy side?
Yeah, so this one was, we always are super flexible. If people need to close quick, we can close as fast as 7 to 10 days. Really, the only preclusion there is we just need the title company the time to have them run proper title.
Yep.
I know some people say they can close in a couple days. I guess they're taking it and not doing a title search. We need to do that. So we tell people,
that'd be insane not to do title search.
I think that would be insane too.
Wait an extra 2 or 3 days and do it.
Yeah, that's not worth it at all, in my opinion. And most people don't need to sell that fast. And so we said, hey, we can do it fast. In this instance, she actually was waiting for a certificate of occupancy on her new place that she was moving into. So she said, you know what, I kind of need some flexibility, guys, because I don't want to have to live in a hotel, or I believe she had family in the area. And so we said, yeah, no problem. I don't want it to drag on a couple months because the market dynamics can change a little bit. But in this one, she said, no, I think we should be good with just kind of a classic 30-day close, which is great for me because then I get plenty of time to line up my contractors, dial in our fixture and finish package. I mean, we can really hit the ground running, and she wanted 30 days. And so we said, of course, no problem at all.
So you first looked at this property in January. So you came back around in mid-February?
In mid-February.
Okay, and then you're under contract, so you're planning on closing around mid-March.
Yep, exactly. We closed March 16th.
So right when COVID was hitting everything.
Right when COVID was hitting. So that was an interesting one where we had analyzed it pre-COVID. We're under contract and about to buy it right as things were just starting out. So there's some other interesting things that we'll talk about here in a second, but it was a kind of a crazy time of when we were acquiring it. Part of me thought, do we, tell them about COVID and kind of say, hey, there's some uncertainty here, but I just said, nope, just stick to your word, pay for what you said you were going to pay for. And then, be really cognizant on the back end of how much money we put in it and how fast we can go.
And so you bought for $355, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. $355 was the purchase price. That was a net purchase price. So as in all of our off-market deals, no one has to pay any commissions. Typically, we pay all of the closing cost, but actually this was a great one, and we almost pride ourselves in being able to kind of solve problems for really actually savvy sellers. And so our client was is an attorney, and she wanted to close at Land Title. We've got a good relationship there. They're one of the larger title companies around. And so we said, great, we'll use our closer, Amy, over at that one. She even, she's a different style of attorney, not a real estate attorney. So normally we don't have attorneys get in our deals, but we're very kind of savvy in how to negotiate with them. And so we said, no problem. She had a real estate attorney review our investor contract and
this is different than the Colorado contract?
Correct.
Okay.
Definitely different, shorter, more straightforward. But there is a lot of, the typical 17-page DORA contract that traditional real estate agents use. This ended up becoming somewhere in the middle. We ended up adding about 2 pages worth of kind of title information and some clarification verbiage. But again, for this deal, they weren't unreasonable requests. And so we said, hey, if that's what we're going to do, will you split the closing costs with us? And I said, I'll pay for it if you want to kind of keep it as is, just to kind of pay for my attorney's fees to double check what we were receiving. And everybody was super agreeable to work with. And so we said, no problem, and kind of added 2 pages to the contract. Everybody was happy and closed at Land Title.
Great. Well, I mean, I have friends that are attorneys, so I know you probably got some listening out there, but when you deal with attorneys, that's what happens. And
Exactly.
This was not a huge headache.
Yes.
Because sometimes they can go down rabbit holes and be
Yes.
like, okay, we don't need to debate the word reasonable for 3 days.
Right.
So
Right.
it sounds like it actually worked out really, really well.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, there are times we've had it come up, a handful of times over the last 5 or 6 years where people try to shred your contract. Again, I just tell people we've used it hundreds of times and it's worked really well. And you start to get the sense that maybe this isn't a deal for both sides. And then you, at that point, say, either we'd love to work with you and we can't keep bending over backwards or not maybe just exposing ourselves. And so you kind of get a sense of that. This was super reasonable. And we just said, no problem. They feel comfortable. We're comfortable and everybody's happy.
And when you say, I'm reading your slide here, you paid the majority of closing costs. Is that just the $400 closing fee at land title you're talking about, or is that other? Because closing costs is such a ubiquitous word. What
it is?
What do you when you say that? What's your definition?
Our definition in our traditional deals is we pay literally every penny of closing cost. So we pay that $1,500 to $2,500 worth of all-in expenses because we want our sellers to truly know here's your net profit, here's your net number. We call it the hit the bank account number.
Okay.
Rather than, you're right, because there are a lot of different nuances. So for that, we typically on our cash deals, on our investor deals, we pay everything. In this specific example, we ended up splitting it about 50-50 because they wanted to, again, kind of add a little more complexity, use their title company, and we said no problem. But yeah, traditionally when somebody calls me and says, hey, can I have an offer on my house? No problem. It's the cash number and the full, $1,500 to $2,500 worth of closing cost.
The title policy that traditionally the seller pays for in Colorado. Okay, so all
correct.
That. Okay.
Yeah, the title policy, the fees to the title company, the record search, the HOA document fees, the prep fees, the rush fees, whatever it is, we pay it because it's just more streamlined for our clients.
And I've noticed, from a lot of my friends, is just when you say you'll pay closing costs, which is usually minimal, hey, $1,000, $2,000, like the perception for most buyers is just, oh my gosh, this is going to be thousands and tens of thousands of dollars, where it's like, oh, what, an extra $500, $1,500.
It is, and then for us, the big rationalization is on the back end, then I can do what's called a hold open title policy.
Oh, yeah.
So for your listening audience, that is to where I'm paying a little more up front, but then my rate that I pay on the back end, which as a traditional seller, you are paying those costs, is a fraction of what it would be if the seller paid up front. And then we have to pay on the back. We're almost going to pay as much because you're typically using two different title companies. So for us, our all-in costs are, let's say, $2,000. If I'm saving money up front and they're paying, and I'm only paying $500, but I've got to pay $1,500 on the back end, we'd rather front load that. Like you said, the perception of value is there. I'll cover $1,500 up front, and I know it's going to cost me $500 to $1,000 on the back end. That's a no-brainer for us all day, and the title companies love it because we double end everything with them and build those relationships.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's a great point.
Yep.
All right, and so the next bullet point on your slide is the inspection process. And you said you're using your project manager and your GC.
Correct.
But when you do this with your contract, is it similar to like the DORA contract where you can terminate if you see something that scares you, or is your earnest money hard when you put the offer in?
That's a great point. Ours is a bit of a hybrid. So for us, we are doing it so that we do have the ability to terminate because we want to make sure we look at the sewer scope, and then we want to make sure we looked at the structural condition of the home. So we really do kind of clear typically everything else out up front, and we're really up front with the seller. And we say, hey, we've done an initial inspection. Here's our number. We agree. We go under contract. All we're going to really do is look at the sewer scope and see if there's any structural problems. If those do come up, then we tell them, you don't have to make any repairs. We just want to buy it as is, less what it's going to cost us to do a sewer repair or replacement or structural. Clients at that point, they also have the ability to say, I don't want to sell it for that amount of price reduction, and that's okay too. And we both terminate, or 95% of our clients say, okay, that's reasonable, because actually we're getting wholesale pricing from contractors. And so let's use sewer line as a good example. If they just called off the street and said, hey, I need a new 75-foot long sewer line with a tap to the city main line, that's going to be, $10,000 to $12,000 expense. We typically get that for, $6,000 to $8,000.
Okay.
And so we tell them, hey, that's the price we're looking to get in a reduction. We're not going to have the retail price. And then many times, it's a month out. So we just say, here's the price, and we'll less it out by that much. So there is the ability to both terminate, but the vast majority of what we've already done in our inspection, we're in good shape and budget accordingly. It's just those two major things that we can't see on the first go round.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah.
And then we talked about you're doing cash, about 30-day close for flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming on the inspection process, no major stuff popped up?
Yeah, no major stuff popped up. Everything looked good. We ran the sewer scope. That one looked good. Since it was an unfinished basement, it was in really, really good shape. So on this one, I didn't need to bring our engineer. We were totally comfortable with the way that everything looked.
Oh, because you just walk it and see the walls?
Yep, you walked it and you could see the walls. Their crawl space was unfinished, and it was in amazing condition. So
it wasn't full of junk that...
No, it wasn't too bad, actually. We've done that before where we've said, hey, we got to move the junk out of the way and then inspect it, because you can definitely get caught on that type of scenario. But this one was super straightforward. Bought it with cash, 30-day close. I mean, a lot of times people need flexibility. We just bought a property in Centennial on Wednesday, and the sellers needed flexibility to move out. And so we just closed on Wednesday, and then they have a 30-day rent back. So we'll kind of span the gamut of, you need to sell it in 10 days? Cool. You need it kind of normal, 30? Fine. You want to leave all your stuff? Cool. You want to rent it back for 30 days? No problem. Be flexible is our goal.
All right, so now we're looking at before photos.
Mm-hmm.
I know for people on the podcast, before photos are really tough to see.
Right.
But check the show notes, and we will... you can see them on there, but base looks like the original hardwood flooring in there.
Yep.
I mean, those cabinets are what, from the 50s?
Yeah, they are leprechaun green, and they're from the 50s. And it's got great structural components, but it is super closed off too. So it's got great details that the original folks didn't rip out of the house, which was great. But yeah, super, super dated and hadn't been touched in quite some time.
And this looks long and narrow.
Correct.
Is that the layout of the house? It's long and narrow?
It is. It's long and narrow. It is exactly 1,000 square feet on the first floor, or above grade, as people call it. And this one was just under 500 square feet unfinished in the basement. So it was kind of your classic half duplex layout where you walk in, you've got a really neat little living room. In this specific example that your folks can jump online and check it out, it had all the beautiful detail work of a 100-year-old home.
Yeah.
It has cool built-ins. It's got little partitions that almost define a dining room space. And then you've got your classic kind of closed-off kitchen that's not configured well in the back. And then you go into what many of these have added on the 50s is a little ability to get down into the basement. And we'll talk about it here in a second. We love to use those and turn them into really cool office spaces. And 2 bedrooms on the top level and 1 bath.
And this is the kitchen. You guys can, but this is the kitchen back here, right?
Correct.
Behind this wall. Okay.
Yep, kitchen. Yeah. So some people call it a shotgun style because back in the day, this is what someone told me. It could be a total lie, but it sounds good. That you could literally walk in the front door, shoot a shotgun, and shoot all the way through the entire house, and it would go out the back. So
sounds legit to me.
Sounds legit. I mean, why not? I don't know. I'm sure somebody's laughing at me that told me that, a real estate agent back in the day. But it is that classic format where you just walk in and it's this nice flow from front to back of your main living space on one side of the house. The other side is kind of your classic walk into a hallway, and you've got 2 nice sized bedrooms with some closet space in the middle and a hallway bathroom in the middle. No true master. And this is the way a ton of these properties are from roughly the 1900s through about the 1940s. They didn't start really changing the layout till about the 50s.
So that's typical for that vintage. So
yeah, and it's pretty. I mean, it's super nice. Yeah. Yep. So that's kind of the before picture.
Okay. And then do you have a scope of work anymore? I want to start asking questions on what you did. I'm not sure when you're jumping into that. Yeah,
we'll jump into that here in a little bit. And actually, that's a good follow-up. We're happy. This would be a good one that if people want to follow up with us afterwards, we can share the scope of work, because this one was, we'll talk about high key points to keep it on time, but we really did literally virtually everything in this, on the interior of this property. It was a heavy lift for us, which we like, for amount of rehab. So kind of that's the befores, and then we just went to another slide where, like I mentioned, completely unfinished basement. This one did the margins worked
those
well.
Are tall ceilings.
They are 7-foot ceilings. So that was almost 7, maybe at 7 and a couple inches. They were, because I'm 6 feet tall and I had plenty of headspace. So when we see that amount of headspace, we were super pumped that we know we can finish the basement.
Yeah, you don't see that too often in these older Denver homes. They're maybe enough so you can like walk in there.
Yep.
Slink a little bit.
Yep.
And then if you're a drywall or finish it, you're in trouble.
Yeah, you really are. I mean, you can have conforming bedrooms, and in this example, we'll talk about it here in a second. We made a conforming master suite downstairs and converted that back area to a really neat office and way to get down into the basement, and a nice kind of clean slate to work with. That it was overall in decent shape. The furnace was in a little bit of an odd spot. The hot water heater was shot, so we had to replace that. We had that classic big, super heavy utility sink in the basement, but that gives us a good starting point for plumbing. So
yeah, at least it's plumbing.
Half of it is kind of somewhat in the right configuration.
And that furnace, I mean, looks fairly new and in good shape. Was it mechanicals pretty good on the
property?
The
furnace was really good. The hot water heater, we had to redo that one.
Whatever, that's not much.
The electrical panel was in good shape on this one, and the roof was actually in good shape. So overall, it was pretty decent. And then they had the beautiful vintage windows that were original. You had to put a lot of elbow grease into those to make them really functional, but we don't want to take those out if we can save them, because it just keeps with the character of the home. So we, you still spent a good chunk of change kind of bringing those back to life, but we didn't change out the windows for brand new windows as far as major systems go.
All right, so now we're at the after photos. This is the upstairs. So looks like, did you take down the wall in the kitchen?
We did.
Okay, so I'm going to describe it for you guys listening out there. So going into the kitchen from the dining area was just, a door in the middle with a wall. Looks like you basically knocked down the whole wall and put in a eat-in or a counter / dining table.
Yeah, absolutely. The nice thing about half duplexes is that there are not as many structural load-bearing walls in the kitchen area. So it's more of a classic demo. You don't have to put a beam in there on this specific example because the load is carried from the walls that divide your living space and your bedrooms, and then the middle wall between the two buildings overall, and then your exterior wall.
That's pretty typical for half or duplexes like that? Okay.
Yeah, it definitely is. So you've got to spend a little bit of money, but you're not removing the load-bearing wall walking into the kitchen, and then you can get a truly open concept. So when you walk in your front door into your living room, you can see living room, dining room, completely into kitchen. And then we're really big proponents of creating that breakfast bar at a regular countertop height. I don't like to take it up that extra 2 feet. We like to have it one big long slab of quartz so that you can fit 2 or 3 stools. People can kind of entertain and hang out. Gives you a ton of prep area, extra countertop space, and then really nice layout to get all of your appliances in. In this specific example, the other thing that we did is, if you remember the bright green cabinets, we flip-flopped the layout. So we actually moved the range or your stove and your microwave to an existing wall so that you don't have to run venting out the top roof, because when you're cooking on a regular range, your microwave's going to suck up, that bacon grease and all that kind of stuff. And then we wanted the sink by the window. So we did incur some costs, but I think it really made the layout way better. So we flip-flopped the way that the current structure was set up. So you've got your nice, dishwashing looking out the nice open windows, and then we debated taking out the back wall, but it created this nice kind of partition to what made an office. So we actually took out a little bit of the wall, but we didn't completely knock it down, so we could also add extra cabinets too.
So right in the back, you got that little office area, and that's where the stairs go down the basement.
Correct.
What about laundry?
Yeah, laundry is in the basement.
Okay.
Yep, laundry's in the basement.
All right, yeah. So these photos look great. So I mean, they lose some stuff, but just standard brand new kitchen. Looks like you redid the flooring.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, kind of went with, we've got 5 different fixture and finish packages. This one we went with our black contemporary finish. So we've got kind of the classic white kitchen cabinets. We've got black hardware on the cabinetry. We've got black lighting. We went with a cool modern half stair rail downstairs that's black steel rather than doing it with wood. And then with this one, we kind of went, we'll talk about it more, of where we decide to kind of push the price and grow the budget based on where we think we can sell this thing. We went with the nicest quartz that we could get, that really neat white quartz that has the gray vein running through it. So you kind of have the best of both worlds in this type of product, where you've got beautiful old world details of built-ins and storage area and shelves and fireplace, but then you've got brand new kitchens, brand new systems, brand new bathrooms.
So more photos, so a little office nook.
Right.
Oh, and this is what we talked about. I forget on one of the, I think we did a quarterly update podcast. You talked about one of the things you pivoted for COVID was you were doing some like built-ins or office areas since everyone was working from home now. So that's where I mentioned that. So that's where I remember it. So this is the office area you built back here.
Correct.
It's a perfect spot for a desk. And then that looks like the master bedroom in the basement because I see an egress window down there.
That is. We kind of debated there was maybe enough room to squeeze a half bath upstairs, but you weren't going to get a classic master. And so even though it's not ideal to have your master in the basement, the configuration of this particular property was in the backyard at ground level, you had a really nice door that you could also Airbnb out the basement. So if you really wanted to, you could have actually closed off that. That's the other reason why we didn't completely blow out that back wall is you could frame in a door and you could separate that off. So we kind of sold that as an add-on if people want to do that in the future, or it gives you the ability. We actually dropped, there was an existing window, but it was actually less expensive to do a double egress or doubly wide egress window that almost made this feel garden level rather than true basement. And then we put a master bathroom in the basement. And then there's a little extra square footage in there that people can check out in the show notes. And again, we've talked about doing extra staging. We did the office. And this one, it had a little entry area rather than it feeling like wasted space. We put extra shelving in there, space for a washer and dryer. We put in the extra table, the Keurig, chairs, tables, little stuff to almost make you feel like, okay, you could Airbnb this bottom unit out and charge a nice chunk of change because it's all brand spanking new.
Oh, yeah. So you turn this into a 2-1 upstairs. Now it's a 3-2 because you had the master bedroom and the master bath in the basement, right? Okay.
Yep. So we went from 2-1 and unfinished to 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 100% finished.
Oh, yeah, that's going to make it, and just so more people want to buy a 3-2 versus a 2-1.
Yeah, and there wasn't a lot of inventory in that area, in that close to price point that was a 3-2. It was a bunch of 2-1s, or you started to lean towards single-family homes, and there's a huge jump in price. So that was another reason why it kind of, when we saw the height of that basement, we saw what's going to happen with the sale next door, then we knew that we 100% wanted to finish out the basement.
All right, so now we're looking at your spreadsheet, and this is your deal analyzer that you put together. So if you guys want to see it, check the show notes, and of course you can always download off the website or email Derek to grab a copy. So walk us through here because I see a couple green for your metrics and a couple yellows.
Correct. Yeah, so this is what we analyzed it and we went in buying it, and this is what we would have been happy with. So it's a $355,000 purchase price. We had a lower rehab budget because we thought, you know what, let's just only do the top floor, keep the rehab a little lower, keep the timeline lower, and quickly move through it. So we had a $58,500 rehab, and then our ARV was selling it right around 500. Kind of flirted thinking that we'd maybe sell it for a touch less, a little bit more, but overall the number was 500. And again, we purchased it on March 16th. The scope of work was in kind of the initial thought process, full rehab on the main floor, keep the 2-bed, 1-bath layout, kind of minor stuff on the exterior. Overall, it was in really good shape. The roof was in really good shape. Definitely needed some landscaping work. And this is kind of an interesting caveat. We had it pegged for a 100-day project because we were going to pull permits, knowing that we were going to change around the kitchen configuration and remove some walls. We'll talk about it in the next slide of kind of what ended up happening. The way we got to the ARV was there were 8 or 9 really solid comps, and we had this nice little sweet spot that we were well below what a single-family property was selling for. But we actually weren't that far above what a condo was selling for. So we thought, you know what, this is going to be a good project. You're right, we have 2 greens, so we had projected profit right at $50,000. So it's actually $50,033 if you're looking at the spreadsheet. The one that we're always super keyed in on is the dollars per day, which is how much net profit are we making divided by the number of days. So it was $500 a day net profit, so that's definitely green for us. The ROI box is yellow, and that's a little bit of a function of spending a little more money to buy it, spending a decent amount of money to rehab it, and not having a monstrous spread kind of brings your ROI down a little bit. So in this example, it was an 11.12% return on investment. But when we look at overall deals, if there's a spread of about $140,000 from what we buy it to what we sell it for, that's usually a green light for us. So this is right in that wheelhouse. Again, we're buying it for $355. We're thinking we're going to sell it for $500. That's right on the money for, our normal deal analysis.
And then because I think this is the way your spreadsheet said it shows client profit and elevation profit. This was just your own flip. This is not a partnership flip, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, we use the same spreadsheet for us and for our clients. And so this would be a good example that if a client had brought us this property, then we do that net profit and we split it 50-50. That sell changes a little bit. Let's say a client is borrowing hard money. They're going to assume their hard money costs. So it kind of throws it a little off from a 50-50 split. But yeah, this was a company flip that I bought with my company. We kept it and we sold it.
And so I see your holding cost at 5%, which is kind of like your interest rate.
Yep.
Now you bought it with cash. Is that money you're borrowing, or is that just the interest rate you give for like opportunity cost?
That's a great question. I've got a lot of friends that actually, they use their own cash, but they do weigh the opportunity cost and they almost want to pay themselves a return. The way that we buy is we are a cash buyer, but that's because I use a business line of credit.
Okay.
So to the end seller, cash is being wired into the title company, but I do have some kind of reasonable holding costs. And I think we've had this discussion before. It's kind of a leverage thing. Like, would it be great to use all cash? Yes, but then my ROI actually goes down and I can't do as many projects. So I'd rather borrow on a line of credit at a reasonable rate than do it all in cash.
Oh, yeah. Leverage up.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, for us, my current holding cost is 5%.
Okay.
Yep, on the back end.
And then, great, I'm curious to see what your actuals were.
So then we sold this. Again, I want to have that flashing disclaimer. We were super excited. This is not typical. Well, when I say that, we normally have one, in our world, this is a home run. So we'll go over the numbers here in a second. But anytime you approach a six-figure profit, that's a home run in our books. We've been really blessed. We normally, on average, get about one of these a year. We never count on them. We never underwrite them this way. It's just the way things run up from time to time. So we quickly made the pivot for two reasons. We decided to finish the basement because there wasn't a lot of inventory that was that size. The second thing is the unit next door that was mirror image, unfinished basement. They listed it at $449, and it ran up and it sold for $479.
Oh, great.
As is. So I said, no brainer. Let's do the basement. So we recalibrated. Obviously, our rehab budget jumped a bunch. It jumped $30,000.
Because you're at like 60,000?
58.
Okay.
And we went up to 89 and change, so almost $31,000. We were conservative on what we thought the ARV is. We added an extra $15,000 to what we thought we could sell it for. That was our list price. We were really thinking that it was going to be around the $525 range, but we always like to list a little bit low. And then, like we said, the scope of work was complete refinish of the basement. So we had to do a lift station so that you're able to put a bathroom downstairs. We had to completely refinish everything, reconfigure plumbing. The interesting thing about this was, and we were really upfront, and I think this goes to the takeaway points that we'll talk about here in a second, was ironically, we actually were able to get the project done faster than what we initially planned because we ended up not being able to do permits because the city and county of Denver shut down because of coronavirus. So I was at a weird inflection point of, oh man, do I just sit on this property and wait for the city to open up? And that's not the business that I'm in. So
they would compensate you for holding costs.
Oh, right? Of course. They would definitely probably pay double. Our mantra is always do permit quality work.
Yeah.
So that if a inspector walked in, you're not redoing anything, you're just losing a little bit of time and you're paying more in permitting fees. But in this instance, I didn't know if it was going to be a month, 2 months, 3 months. So I said, let's just plow ahead. Let's be super upfront with everyone on the back end, and we'll talk about that here more in a second. So we actually got this project done and sold in 86 days.
And that's from close to close?
That's close to close.
Wow.
So this was the third most profitable project that we did on a net profit basis, but this was the single best dollars per day profit because we actually made net over $1,000 a day in net profit because we got it done quick. And that's a huge testament to, I definitely think our system plays a part, but our GC just kicked ass on this one. I mean, he was phenomenal, and we were really fortunate to have him on our team.
So you closed on this on the buy side in mid-March.
Yep.
So that probably means you close on the sell side mid-June?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. It was just under 90 days. So we did this one in 86 days, close to close. So the overall metrics on this one was we bought it projecting a $50,000 profit. We made $92,276 on this one. Again, this is the one that at many people's teaching academies, they say, this is how you flip. Again, this is our once in a year home run deal that, 50 would be great. That's kind of our normal bread and butter for this type of project, but we were super, super lucky. The reason it happened is I think twofold. One, we listed it coming out of the lockdown on Corona when you could show properties. So that was huge. We listed it a little bit low. Again, I thought 525 was a super reasonable number because there were only 2 properties on the market within $100,000.
So there probably weren't like great comps for that over there, but
there weren't. That was the thing that I got nervous about is, you always play that kind of game of you want a bunch of offers and you want your price to go up. But ironically, it can't go up too high or it won't appraise.
Yep.
So in this one we had, and it's our record too, so we let it breathe for 4 days. We listed it on Thursday. We had showings Friday through Monday. We had 77 showings. We had 36 offers. Every one of them was at or above asking. And the way that we went on the back end is it sold for $567.
and you listed at 525?
We listed at $515.
Okay.
And we had it run up. Again, we're super thankful and fortunate for that. But on the back end, where we really work with my team to pick the best buyer, it's the person that ideally loves the house the most. It's the person that's obviously very qualified from a financial standpoint. And then in this instance, we were then negotiating the largest possible appraisal gap, which for your listening audience is, if we're under contract at 567, and actually in this instance, they put an offer in at 571. And I thought there's no way it's going to appraise for that. So they did a good job, and I want to give them credit too. What we did is we said, we need the ability for our buyer to cover the gap from where we're under contract to where it appraises. Because I'm sure your audience, has an understanding that if an appraisal comes in and it's low, 2 things can happen. Either they can just straight up terminate. They can say, we'll keep the property, but we're only going to buy it at the appraised value because that's what the bank's going to lend on it for. And so we negotiated a $35,000 gap or margin of safety, in my opinion, kind of throwing an investment term back out there, of thinking, okay, this could actually appraise somewhere in the 530s and 540s, which I felt super confident in that, and they're still committed to buy it at 567. So they said, okay, we'll agree to $35,000 appraisal gap, but we want $4,000 off the price. And I said, super fair.
Take that deal.
Done. Done. Again, that's where you don't get greedy. Don't think that, they should have paid that. No way. Just be super fortunate and happy that this is a great project, that they're being graceful and doing an appraisal gap. Kind of go with that type of scenario and run with it.
So let me ask you on here. So actually, 3 questions on here. So you got 36 offers. Did you, once you started coming, did you go back and shop it around and tell people to bring their highest and best, or just have so many you just went through that?
That's a great question. So what we did is 36 offers. We went back to the top 7. And it was, I can't believe this verbiage came out of, my in this instance, I've got 2 on-staff members who've got licenses to sell our stuff. And they said, good news, you're one of our top 7 offers, which sounds insane. Again, we never want to be callous about this. We want to be really, really understanding, because these are people who are out there looking for their dream house, and they loved it, and they love these houses. And so at that point, they all had escalation clauses, so they were all canceling each other out. Around the 550 range is where a lot of people were maxing out. And we just said, resubmit, top 7 people, take out your escalation clause, just put your best foot forward, give us your best deal, your best scenario, and we're going to pick one person. We will not come back to you again. Put it all on the table. And so actually the person who was at 567 came in at the 11th hour, and they said they were going to do this, and they came in over the top of a lot of people.
Okay.
And again, we all vet. I mean, I don't want to leave $10,000 on the table. We want to make sure it's the right buyer, but this person loved the property, good people to work with. And so all these kind of escalations canceled out. And we said, put your best foot forward. They were all super tight, and that was the winning one. And we were super excited and went with that.
What about
profit.
lending? Since lending, obviously this is not a jumbo property, so you went to conventional, but I'm assuming you probably did extra due diligence on the lenders.
We did due diligence on the lenders, and then we really pushed to get personal information on the buyers to find out what industry they were in, what their job was. All things being equal, if somebody is a freelancer, even though they might make $250,000 a year, and somebody is a nurse at a hospital, in this scenario, I'm going with the nurse. All things being equal. So we really tried to vet the lender, we tried to vet the buyer, and even we almost try to vet the agent. All things being equal, we want to work with somebody who knows what they're doing, is going to be reasonable, and again, we want it to be a win-win for everybody. So we kind of vet everybody as much as we can.
And what about the inspection? I'm kind of jumping around here in the
Yes.
contract prospects. That's the first major hurdle
It
in
is.
the contract.
Yep.
Especially on the flip side or selling
Yep.
side, you're using the door or a standard contract.
Correct.
for the MLS.
Correct.
I'm assuming the buyers probably did their inspection.
They did.
Did they waive that?
No, they did the inspection. A
Okay.
couple people waived it, but they were lower in price. This was an interesting one where we were super upfront. The second we got an offer, we said, just so you know, this has been kind of this crazy coronavirus. We do 100% of our work to code and to the right quality, but we did not pull permits. We cannot provide those. You can look at it. We really actually, and I never do this, but we gave them the information for our general contractor and their website. We were at the inspection with my project manager and the general contractor answering questions so that everybody could feel comfortable. But if somebody wasn't comfortable, that's okay.
Yeah.
We didn't want them to buy the house.
But better to be upfront about it.
Yes.
So you don't waste everyone's time.
So we don't waste people's time. So the funny thing about this one is this is the area where it's so competitive. Every agent swears that their client loves the house and that they're only worried about health and safety. Fair enough. Every inspection report we get back, even on a completely fixed up property where we replaced everything, we still get a 40-page inspection report, which is a whole different conversation that we can have at some point.
So what did the inspection objection look like from the buyers on this?
For the buyers on this one, it was a lot of little things. I'll give you a good example, and these are things that, again, we're happy to correct. But on the inspection objection report, it was that one of the kitchen cabinets didn't glide well.
So I have.
So I'll just let that sit.
Because if we buy rental properties, we tell our clients not to get nitpicky about that.
Yes.
But at the same time, hey, if they're going a $35,000 appraisal gap on a high-end finished property,
Yeah, true.
how do you? Because part of me is like, yeah, whatever, like take it or leave it, and they probably still take it. But then I was like, hey, cool, they're paying top dollar on a finished product. How do you? What's your mental discussion on that?
My discussion on that is I just wish people would be upfront with us. I wish, which again, everybody's got their own negotiation strategy. If someone's trying to get a property on behalf of their client, they're going to do whatever they can to get that property, and that's fine. But if you tell me, please pick us because I'm only going to talk about health and safety issues, absolutely. Let's go down that road.
Do they write that in the contract?
Some of them, if they're a good agent, they
yeah.
will write that in the contract.
That's what we do.
And I love that, and I appreciate that. Now, here's the converse. Don't come back to me with that the cabinet doesn't glide well, because the scenario is in the end we're happy to tweak the cabinet so that it glided properly. Like those things are actually under my scope of work with my contractor. So a bunch of those things, it's not a big deal at all. I'm happy to do that. But all things being equal, what frustrates me is if just be honest, just say, hey, you made a great point. We're paying a premium. We're doing an appraisal gap. We want to make sure this is a perfect product.
Yeah.
We really try to do all the legwork and fix it all up front anyways. So for example, in this property, we already put in a brand new radon mitigation system. We put in a vapor barrier for the radon. We replaced everything else. So we're always confident. We're thinking, well, we've done everything. So what could you kind of come back with besides nitpicky things? If you would be upfront, I'd be happy to do that. It's a little hard pill to swallow when people praise up and down and say only health and safety, only huge major issues. Okay, no problem. And in this specific example, we had no inspection objection for specific inspection items, but just to be a good karmic person, I fixed a handful of things that for your exact reason. They're paying a great price. We want people to be happy. Just shoot me straight up front, just like I think they would want us to shoot them straight. Let's use the example of had we not told anybody, no, we didn't pull permits, they go through an inspection and say, where's the permits? And we say, oh, shoot. No, let's just be upfront. Let's be honest with one another. It's going to be way easier communication. I think there's two sides to the story. And like you said, either just hammer us with an inspection report and we'll make great business decisions. And many times it's small stuff because we fix the main stuff anyways. Or if it's health and safety, let's just stick to health and safety. My favorite one, it comes up all the time in the fall, is people tell me it's a health and safety report and then they say the gutters are dirty. I'm like, well, it's fall and there's trees that have leaves that are falling in the gutter. That's not a health and safety. I'd be happy to fix a health and safety issue, but we're going to pass on that one. You can clean your own gutters.
What about the appraisal that came back at value?
That came back at value.
Nice.
567. And I was nervous about that. I mean, that's why we negotiated this big gap. And I think the cool takeaway from that one is we actually listened to another podcast and they brought up a great point. And they said that if nothing ever appraised for more, we would have this weird long period of non-growth, and you can't tell somebody that Denver isn't appreciating. How much it appreciates, I think that's all very, very semantic. But in this example, we just told them straight away, we said, go look at the product. It's different from anything that you're going to see. So I think there's value there of a great finished product. Everything is brand new. We are way below single family comps. We are not that much far above condos. And then we told them the numbers. We had 77 showings. We had 36 offers. We have people waiving inspection and appraisals. So here's what it is. Here's our company and what we do and our brand. And the person was very reasonable. And so it
you
appraised.
Met the appraiser at the property?
We offered to, but my agent, talked to the gentleman on the phone and gave them that. We always send over comps too. We just say, hey, here's a bunch of comps that we used when we bought it. We used it when we listed it. Just provide them with the best possible information, and they'll make the best case scenario.
Well, they're humans like everyone else. They're busy, and if you make their job easier,
Right.
Usually they appreciate it.
Absolutely. That's what we want. We want it to be easy. So if you provide all that data and that kind of backing up front, it helps justify, versus if it was crickets, I think it's a big chance that probably wouldn't have appraised at value.
Okay. So those were my main questions.
Yeah.
One thing I just remember, like, what type of loan do they do? Was it 5% down conventional, 20% down conventional? Do you recall?
Yeah, this one was interesting. I got a little nervous when all this was coming through, is that we were only seeing 5, max 10% down payments. And so I was really having our agent vet these lenders, saying, why are they only putting down this much money? Are they truly qualified? And on a number of these people, they said, you know what, they could buy this house in cash if they wanted, but we're in the middle of a pandemic. Nobody knows what's going on. They want to be cash flush. So they're qualified all day. They've got great credit, but they only want to put down 5 or 10%. And so it actually made me feel way better, because all things being equal, we probably would have gone with somebody who was putting down more and had the ability to cover that appraisal gap. I got nervous, but that was by far the norm on the majority of those offers. Is they were lower percentage of down payment. Still conventional loans, wouldn't have qualified for an FHA, but still conventional.
Well, I guess for buyers like us and like leverage and cash in the bank.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and it was a smart move on their behalf. You know, this had nothing that you wanted to do, but a good example would be is if somebody wanted to build a garage or something. Don't put that amount down. Use it to build your 2-car garage in the back. Cool. Yeah.
All right. What else?
You know, I think that was pretty much it. This one, again, we're really fortunate. I think the systems really played into it, but it goes back to 3 things. It's location, location, location. It's a great area. So, you know, pick a great area, turn out a great product, don't cut corners, and then be really upfront with people. So on the front end, we were upfront with our seller, and it paid dividends for us. On the back end, we were really upfront with every person, saying, normally we would totally pull permits. Here's our portfolio of similar rehabs. Here's our contractor's information who's licensed. Open book, here you go. And it was good for everybody, and the buyer was really happy, and we're super thankful. And, you know, it's something that I guess the end message is, if anybody wants to do a partnership flip in the Highlands, give us a call and we will flip your house in a hot second, and would love to team up with somebody, because it's such a cool area. Yeah. And I've gotten away from it because I've gotten outbid on a lot of properties up there. But this really starts to make me think, could I maybe pay $5,000 more here and there on an offer, knowing what we can turn out on the back end? Probably. Can I think that every house will run up this much? No. But I mean, we set the comp, it's the highest in the area, and now things will cascade beyond that, I think.
All right. Well, Derek, I appreciate you always taking the time to do this with us.
Yeah, thank you.
And listeners out there, like I said, this will be, Derek will be doing a lot of like more routine and regular fix and flip deal analyses with us. So if there's more specific stuff you'd like us to talk about or different parts of the process, definitely let us know. We're always happy to kind of dive in different topics on there.
Yeah.
So definitely reach out and give us feedback.
Yeah.
So Derek, thank you, man.
Chris, thanks for having me.